That's one of the staples. Shout out Dallas. Shout out Intimate Connections. Let's get into this build, or don't we? So, hold on. That ain't where I wanted to start. Let's start here, if we can. Well, anywho. Peace to the family. As we've been charting the moon since Leo, the Queen Moon, and charting it through Virgo, sidereal is ended in Virgo and is going into Libra. So when you have a cusp moon or a void moon, you then deal with the court cards. So if it's in the deacons, well within the deacons, you can decide, okay, I'm going to deal with a 2 of this, 3 of this, so forth and so on. But when you have a cuspal energy, you then look at the court card. So today we're going to look at the court card of Queen of Swords. And I think that this is a very powerful energy when getting out of Virgo and moving into Libra, which is more centered in relationships. Libra being the 7th house and things of that nature. But I find it I think this conversation that I'm going to have is a very short talk, but a very impactful talk, but also a triggering talk. What's up, John? You want to get in the car? Huh?
Okay, go get on the swings. Azora will put you on there.
You want to get in the other swing? Okay, come on. Okay, thank you. So, we're going to look at this court card, the Queen of Swords, and talk about the energy that the Queen of Swords rules over. Now, the Queen of Swords rules over the 3rd decan of Virgo, hence that's where the moon is at. And it also rules over the first 2 deacons of Libra. And these first 2 deacons of Libra have a specific frequency, and they're centered in relationships, which we need to tie in. The Sun in Aquarius, sidereal Aquarius, which rules with the 7 in Azor. He's saying that he wants y'all to get off the swings and play over here with him.
But I want to stay on the swings, John. No. Oh, fine.
Say thank you.
Hey.
So, first of all, the Sun is in sidereal Aquarius. So you have the 11th house, where it's all about linking up with people. And say, for instance, you're a loner, you don't like dealing with people. We all have a soul group. But the Queen of Swords has a lot of lessons in bringing all of these energies together. And that's what this conversation is going to be about, is how you can combine basically tarot, astrology, and Kabbalah to understand how to navigate your spiritual processes. So why'd y'all do that?
I didn't want to go in there. I want to go on the swing.
He don't want to play with me though. He want to play with y'all. So if I come over here, he ain't gonna be satisfied with it. You want me to put you on the swing?
Get in the swings, John.
Just get in the swing. It ain't gonna hurt you. It ain't gonna. I'll push you.
No.
Don't be afraid of it.
Daddy.
What?
Let me help get on there.
Okay, come on. You on?
Yeah.
Okay. So community, relationships, things that nobody talk about, and especially when you're dealing with the Queen of Swords energy. I feel like the Queen of Swords energy is very necessary, especially if you're in an oppressive situation. If you're dealing with a boss or an abusive partner or any type of negative situation, and I feel like we've all had those situations, both men and women, young and old. But once again, as I'm about to go forward in this, the Queen of Swords gives us very powerful lessons. So in the 10 of this, which is the deacon of the third deacon of Virgo, it talks about wealth. Okay, but you don't want to leave that energy alone. You have to combine it with the first deacon and second deacon of Libra. So the first deacon of Libra, the second deacon of Libra is all about compromise, peace, and we'll detail that. The second deacon of Libra deals with your heartbreak and the story that you tell yourself. So once again, we all have heartbreak, but why is that the dominant narrative to what you're reflecting in your relationships? So once again, we could all look at these situations. We can all look at our lives for our personal endeavors and our personal success. But have you ever looked at the parts of your life that had to be cut away so you could enter into a relationship? The thing about relationships is that you're not looking for the absolute best person. You're just looking for that balance. And that's the lesson in Libra. Sometimes when you're in a relationship and your partner might be like, well, what do you see in me? And things like that. You just sometimes say, well, you balance me out. You balance my energy. And you know, if you date a lot, you put in a lot of energy and a lot of effort into your relationships, and it still don't turn out right because you giving 90% and getting back 0%. So within that, the relationship's never gonna work out because you out of balance. But it's hard to go into balance if you don't understand this Four of Swords energy. This Queen of Swords energy. So let's just deal with it. So the Queen of Swords is a larger card. It's larger than, say, the Two of Swords or the Three of Swords because it's a court card. So a court card literally holds court. So a court is just larger. So when you understand that you got to understand multiple variations on court cards, when you're doing a reading, it's good to understand astrology. So if you want to understand the Queen of Swords, if you pull it on the Queen of Swords, I'm going to give you the 411. I'm going to give you the blueprint. And if you can understand it as a tarot card, you can understand like the words that I'm saying, then you kind of like got one level up because you will get through this energy within yourself, right? And you will know how to succeed in relationships, or you know where you need help at. So let's just get into it. The first deacon is we gonna deal with is the 10 of this, or the third deacon of Virgo, and that's more about wealth. So when you look at the Queen of Swords, quite naturally she is the queen. So when you want to reference what a queen is, because we might not be sovereign and have the royal seal and things of that nature, so you might not feel like a king or a queen. But this idea of king or queenship is like, from the literal sense, being a divine reflection of God. So within that, you have talents and abilities. So in relationships, you either gonna say, I got all of this wealth and you can't get a damn thing, right? To which the person that you are in a relationship with, like, that's creating a negative vibration. So the ultimate goal is coming up with a plan to share your wealth. So the first thing y'all think about is money, but some of us ain't rich. So a king or a queen in the most spiritual sense is referencing your talents and abilities, and it could be the way you cook, the way you look, the way you could treat a person, your business sense, how you are with children, psychic abilities, strength. A lot of y'all are carpenters. A lot of y'all got real estate knowledge, accountants, all that. Like, it all plays because it deals with how you share. So once again, it's not about gaining material wealth, right? That's one level of it, don't get me wrong, because you're going to have to get it, right? You got to get your money. But I'm telling you, before I got on this live, I'm reflecting on one of my friends who got a popping business. You know, I always talk about her because it's just, I don't never say her name, but I always reference her a lot. But she's super, super successful. But if you're not thinking about how you going to share love, then success, what I say is like, success don't mean that when she come talk to me, she's not sad or depressed or in emotional turmoil. Because yeah, I got the success. Yeah, I got the money. Yeah, I came from nothing. But I'm still not satisfied at my core. So how much money do it take to be satisfied at my core? And it ain't no price for that, right? It's an actual skill. It's an actual function. So you build your wealth up, men and women, and you come up with a plan to share. Because ultimately, if you don't have a plan to share wealth, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Within that relationship, you are a blood-sucking vampire, right? And not to trigger you or alarm you, but this Queen of Swords energy is just that. It's trigger alert, right? It's trigger time. So, once again, if you are dealing with a person and they don't have a plan to share love with you, to share knowledge with you, to share wealth with you, then they're going to pull from you, fam. And that's kind of the concept. So in esoteric astrology, I don't really talk to the masses. It's just, if I go live, I'll have a clear and direct message. Now, the thing about having clear and direct messages is that they tend to not go viral because people think I'm talking about them. But I also want to say, if 100 people watch this video, there's no way that I was referencing 100 people singularly. It's just more of esoteric and dealing with the soul mechanics of tarot, astrology, and this is just more or less what I do. So, where are we going to go now? We're going to go to the first decan of Libra. So, the third decan of Virgo is centered in wealth, sharing wealth or hoarding wealth. And hoarding wealth is the dark side of this energy. Sharing wealth is the light side of this energy. If you don't have a plan. So, once again, we going into realms of Libra. So, once again, when I say sharing wealth, you like, well, I ain't giving a nigga shit, right? I ain't giving nobody a damn thing. But you got to understand, if we going into Libra, it's energy exchange. Like, if we go to the market and I say I got 4 pounds of gold and I want that duck, you going to weigh it up on the duck and the gold, and it's going to even out. And if it even out, it's a go. You can take the gold and I take my duck, right? Relationships is the same way. So it's either you either two ways with this. You want to give a nigga everything, right? Drape a nigga off, and that nigga ain't doing nothing for you. Or you want to get into the relationship and expect everything from him and not give him nothing. Well, both of those ways is wrong. The point of a sun in Aquarius and a moon in Libra is to build balance, is to build exchange, okay? So moving on. The first deacon of Libra. That's centered in peace or pieces. Like, so say for instance, we fight a war and all of these geese is saying hello to y'all. Peace to the family. Hi geese. The wind spirits is saying hello to y'all too. You know, just out in nature, because this weather is breaking, boy. We up out here, we in the hills of western Michigan, just absorbing good prana. But so peace. No. So so peace, right? Peace is like where you say like peace, cool, calm vibes. That's not really the peace that's talking about in the first deacon of Libra. It's more talking about a balance and peace, or like a peace treaty. After a war, you would then say, okay, this is what I'm gonna do, and this is what you gonna do. Do that match up? Yeah, that match up. Cool. I know that sounds very simple, but if it's any couples that's on the live or any couples watch this post live, I promise you that you owe that to yourselves to figure out how the relationship is going to come into balance, right? But ultimately, it's hard for shit to come into balance if you like, well, I want this, I want that, I want this, and I want that. It's real easy to go into negotiations when you know what you have to offer. So, once again, knowing what you have to offer is a dangerous game when you're in the spiritual energy. Because in order to get to spiritual energy, you couldn't be a piece of shit human. Right? You had to be some type of a human. That's called self-initiation. But once you come to this place of, I know who I am as a spiritual being, you then, all right, say, I'm not going to sit with my wealth, because you done figured something out to get wealthy, right? You didn't just wake up and decide, oh, I'm wealthy. You figured something out. Now you decide to share it. But with that comes compromise, meaning that you give and receive. You receive and you give, right? You're giving, you're receiving. And I'm telling you, ladies, if you're dealing with a man can handle this. I'm asking, can you handle it? Can you factor in what you're giving? Can you factor in what you're receiving? And does it balance out? Because when I say that, that's going to be a real triggering point. Because people want to get into relationships for emotional reasons. But when you study astrology, it don't really show up like that. There's nothing really emotional about relationships and getting what you want. If you really wanted what you want, if you really wanted something, let's say a diamond fur coat, you wouldn't write a mantra surrounding it. You would see how much it costs, and you would pay that. You would go into the store, drop that credit card, drop that cash, and that diamond fur coat is yours. The same goes for a relationship, but you got to be mentally strong enough to not feel like you just deserve the world and don't know what you're giving to that person. And trust me, it sounds real simple out my mouth, but in y'all real relationships, it's really complicated. Now, these videos get me in trouble because people think that I'm talking about them, but I'm really not. I'm just referencing the energy. So, the second deacon of Libra is our sweet spot. That's the spot in the astrology chart. When I see planets in that second deacon of Libra, I'm like, oh, how are we going to do this? Because I know this is a very sensitive subject. You know, if you got planets in Gemini, sidereal Gemini, it's like, sensitive subject. Like I just had a synastry reading, and I wasn't even reading nobody who had planets in Gemini. It was for somebody else's. Like the synastry was for the partner, so it was like, whew, I'm so happy that I don't gotta talk to this person. Because it's not like if you got a couple of planets in Gemini, I'm talking about a stellium in Gemini. It's like, I mean, it's either you on the precipice of brilliance or you driving somebody completely batshit crazy. But I digress. But the second deacon of Libra, having planets in the second deacon of Libra, that deals with heartbreak. That deals with tragedy. That deals with a sad story. And the reality of transformation is that that has to happen, okay? When you go, well, before Libra is Scorpio. And Scorpio deals a lot with alchemy. And alchemy is transmuting negative energy into positive energy, okay? So this heartbreak that we all share, whether it's an uncle, even if you had a perfect life, you could feel tragedy in reference to people like Prince and Michael Jackson and like Britney Spears or somebody, you feel me? Just because like you feel a certain type of way about that person, and then they leave or they go through a particular loss, and it's like, damn, that's a heartbreak. But you know, if you wake up every day sad because Prince is... Hi, brother. I'm watching y'all. Huh? Okay. Go over, I'll go over there and check them a little later, okay? So like you can wake up every day and be like sad about Prince dying, right? Huh? Then he don't have to play tag.
I'm just gonna go on the swings.
Okay, go on your swings and let Seven play by himself. And John, you figure out what brother you go and play with, or you can decide to play by yourself too. Sounds like a plan. Okay. So once again, Prince died. You got a perfect life, but you a Prince fan. Prince died, and there's nothing that you can do to bring Prince back to life. You pray about it. You go to psychics. You try to get a medium. You hope that Prince talk to you one day. You listen to Purple Rain every fucking day. Every time you walk up to people, yeah, I wish I could smile, but the greatest musician that ever lived ain't living today, and I just can't figure out a way to move forward, right? And I know y'all hearing this scenario laughing like whoever that person is that he talking about is crazy, but I'm using Prince as an analogy for any sad story that you have, bar none, right? No exceptions, right? Because if you understand that sadness is the starting point to alchemy, and alchemy is the transmutation of negativity into positivity, man, I've lost so much in life that all I can do is live for my children. When you look at this card over and over again, like when I was in my early tarot days, man, I was afraid of this card. I would hate to pull it. Like if I pulled it, I'll pull another card. Like, nope, we didn't see that card. It was another card. Yes, birds and trees and happy shit. Okay, cool. Now we can get back to reading because I didn't want to address my sad story. More or lessly because I was saying my sad story over and over again. Now, this is really going to separate the queens from the peasants as a space to being connected to your divine source. So, one would say, if you had a perfect life and nothing bad happened to you, you would be what they call in Jumanji a non-playable character, where your life never mattered anyway. However, if you came through some shit, if you had some heartbreak, you had some trauma, you had some loss, you had some death, you had some family issues, shit wasn't always right and exact at home, Mommy and daddy wasn't always right and exact, and so forth and so on. Relationships didn't turn out the way that you wanted them to turn out. We all got them stories, fam. But the truth is, the winners, they stop fucking telling themselves that same story. The losers, that's the only story that they hear. And since I can't go inside of your brain and mismanage and rearrange your thoughts to change that playback loop, I can only give it to you blood raw. I can only trigger you. I can only make you upset into thinking that the geese say hello once again. Oh, these is real geese too. These the kind of geese you see in the National Geographic and shit. These is official geese.
It's like it said go that way.
It did, didn't it? But we posted.
Uh-huh.
So, damn, them geese threw me off real bad. So, and understanding how you gonna come across to people, because this is real key in relationships. I'm talking to my ladies out there. I love you, but harping on the negative situation that you experienced that brought you out of a catatonic state or woke you up into self-healing is great, but the reality of men is not your past nigga. The reality of men is not your baby daddy. I'm even go further. The reality of men is not every woman that you know and every relationship that they have, right? Because you specifically have a chartered path that don't relate to what another person goes to. Because you can enter into a relationship with, I have this wealth to give. And these are the compromises that I'm going to make. And I realize that you are a new soul, not an old soul. And I'm willing to make that exchange with you, right? If you can listen to the words that I'm saying, your relationships will be easy because men think like this already. Men going to the store, how much for this? Okay, I either got it or I don't got it. That's too much for me. I'm gonna go online, see if I can get at a cheaper price, but I want girl number 2. Joke. But yeah, we'll even negotiate and buy sex. And so I'm gonna bring this conversation home in reference to the goddess, right? Because our whole concept of money and our whole concept of exchange started with wheat, right? Because wheat was the oil of the ancient world, right? Everything moved off of wheat. Whoever had the most wheat was the number one person. But the number one scam to get wheat was sex with the goddess, right? Because, we in the ancient world, it's lions and tigers and all types of shit coming for my ass, right? I need some form of protection. I need some form of good doing. So we dealing with Indo-European history, right? So this is not world history. This is a specific history. So if we know anything about their culture, it's a very warlike culture. So when you have warlike cultures, you have very few women. So you have farmers. So say for instance, I'm talking, guys. Okay. Give me a second. So say for instance, we have a colony and I have different provinces. And I know these men, they working out on their fields day in, day out, right? Hard, back-breaking labor. In order to have them share some of their, to share to share their wealth with me, I have to give them something. I have to give them an exchange. They're just not going to give me that shit just because I call myself the king or the queen. So why do they give it to me? Because I have a temple, right? A temple is where the goddess would be, right? And you didn't just talk to the goddess, you had sex with the goddess, okay? And in order to have sex with the goddess, you offered it wheat. So Virgo, the shaft of wheat being a symbol, that's the essence of it, right? Now we have churches. We don't have temples, but we do have churches. And what do we know about churches and their pastors? They get very sexual. It's very like taboo, but generally, it's a lot of sexing going on in that church. But the roots or the inception of it, the DNA program, it's why Hebrew, Tarot, and astrology is so powerful. And it deals with archetypes, meaning that you can think all of the shit that you want to think, and you can be downloaded with all of the programs that you want to be downloaded with. But your apprehension to want to relate and want to grow your harvest is very centered in your DNA. But if mental download is not manifesting that, then you just got to rearrange it and change it. It's not a hard process to manifest relationships, especially if you're understanding energy exchange. The problem with relationships is that they tend to be one-sided, one way or another way. But when you look at your monetary systems, when you look at retail, when you look at your government, when you just look at commerce in general, it's based upon the exchange, meaning that some of us initiate things, some of us inherit things, but ultimately our ability to share makes life worth living. Our ability to acquire might give us purpose to share, but ultimately where we're kind of confused is that we think it's just acquire and the situation will be solved. The thing about royalty, the thing about divinity is that it don't work unless you express it. So I hear a lot of people reference how deep they are, how trained they are, how special they are. But if they don't create an energy balance when they enter their rooms, people don't like you.
Oh my God! Run!
So
Get in our hideout!
let's do this example. Have you ever seen somebody who had a lot of money and a lot of resources, but you just didn't like them? And not like you didn't like them, you felt the energy from them. And you would see that energy play out in their life, and you would see like, well, damn, it's a reason I ain't like that person. That reason is your balance. That reason is your homeostasis. And people, I tell you one thing about people. You'll give them an invitation, right? But what will people do? They will wear out their welcome. Now, you heard the term wear out their welcome. Well, where does that come from? When you give and you present and you're present and you're sharing and you're offering wealth and you're coming to the table with high value and a motherfucker just say, thank you, I really appreciate that. Thank you, I really appreciate that. Guess what they're doing? They're wearing out their welcome. So when a person stop fucking with you, don't be confused about it. You threw off their balance. You are taking, right? And you were not giving. And the thing about compromise, it's not assumed. Meaning that one day I'm going to be a millionaire, right? But that don't mean I can go into a Lexus dealer, walk into the Lexus dealership, and say, nigga, I'm gonna be a millionaire one day. Give me the keys to this motherfucking 350. All right, peace. Check me out on YouTube, The Hood Mystic. You can. What if what if a background check was watching the cover? Like, I seen your videos, Hood. You do have a lot of promise. You is real slick with them words. You about to get this Lexus and this 50-room mansion, right? Because you got a lot of promise and potential. Last time I checked, it didn't work like that. If I got it, I can get it. But if I don't got it, I can't get it. So when you think about the relationships that you can't have, you're creating that. If you think about the relationships that you can have based upon the conversations that you can have and coming to terms, in both terms, understanding that this works for me. This works for me too. Let's look at these terms a little later to see if they're both working out. Okay, let's do that. Because if you're not understanding what a man wants individually, because the thing is, y'all can assume a lot of shit. So ain't nowhere in the world you can assume that, oh, he liked the way that this shit is going down. Because at that point, you're saying if he do or if he don't like it, he can't do shit about it. And if you ever put a person in that position, they gonna walk out your store. You ever went to a store and got gypped? Where you paid a lot of money and didn't get the value for what you thought the agreement was worth. You wouldn't ever go back to that store. And as much as it's going to trigger you, as much as it's going to piss you off, I know for a fact, if you have a more business-minded mentality in your relationships, outside of a more emotional mentality in your relationships will be successful. Guaranteed. Now, you can be as emotional as you want and cry all the tears and give me all of the goddamn big smiles in the world. When it get down to the crux of things in a man's heart is, am I honoring this agreement? If there was no agreement never made, then most niggas will hit it and quit it. That's another fact. So generally, take your time when you liking a guy, because if you find that your pimp is too intense, his pimp will die. Something to that effect. Meaning that talking to a dude and building a relationship with a guy is priceless. Because you can be a millionaire, right? I know a couple of millionaires, family, and they can't buy love. You hear what I'm saying? Hopefully y'all hear what I'm saying. I know millionaires right now, and they can't buy love. And they tried to, too. They worked hard, day and night and day, manifested a bag, and that bag was in their bank account. Next day, they do an online store, shit sell out the next day. They sending out orders, they making out their money, they getting readings. Well, I made this much this year. Is that enough to manifest a husband? Divine masculine are not for sale. Divine feminine are not for sale. This is the trick in relation to what I was alluding to with paying for sex, or just the concept of trading an item for what you want. Because other than before that, it was all bartering. So, understanding this Queen of Swords energy, This is the independent female. And the independent female is necessary, especially if you're in an abusive situation, especially if you're in an oppressive situation, especially in a situation where that shit just ain't right. But the Queen of Swords energy has to be checked when you're in the presence of a King of Swords or a King of Wands or a King of this. See, that energy, you can't just cut off the king head, because the king head divine too. So the energy that you treating everybody else in relation to, repeating that same sad story. You ain't gonna tell nobody what's going on in your head, but you don't gotta tell people what's going on in your head. It's in the stars. It's for everybody. So you manifesting the shit that you say on and on in your head. And the thing about me, it's not like I do mantras and shit like I'm manifesting a goddess. It's just I'm studying, I'm learning, I'm understanding. And the only thing that come through at the end of the day be the goddess. And I'll be like, well, damn. Talk to me then. And when I understand it, it's saying that the goddess has incarnated in earth in many men and in many women. But understanding this goddess shit is understanding Virgo and understanding the mechanics of relationship, because the whole goddess's energy is not to sit in an ivory tower. That's goddamn Rapunzel or some shit, right? That ain't the queen. The queen wasn't in the tower trapped. That's some old lowly daydreaming ass chick, right? But the queen gotta show up, gotta be in, gotta deal with people, even when she don't want to deal with people. And then the queen, I'll tell you something about the king and the queen. Never in the history of kingdom or queendom, this is how you know you a king or a queen without a title, right? Without a crown. Don't nobody ask you how you doing, fam. But they do come to you like you can solve all of their problems. How you feeling today? You'll never get that. It's just instantly, I need you to help me right now. I know you can help me. Why you coming at me like that? Because you a king? Because you a queen? Now, if you wasn't worth shit, people would never ask you for nothing. It's just that in the relationship of, let me get this baby real quick. In the relationship to your seventh house, you can't look at the seventh house without the first house. So your relationships is somebody always looking at you. And the views that you want to give them is completely up to you. Like, being who you are, showing up the way that you want to show up is difficult. You know why? Because, like, where I'm at, it's like, I gotta get my shit sewn. I can't wear fashionable clothing. You feel me? Because I understand the spell and the magic that's put on it. You feel me? Like, it's so much that we care about appearances, and we care about how people receive us. We care about our financial situation. We care about how talented we are. But when it comes to sharing wealth, when it comes to compromise, when it comes to sharing that same old sad story, this is the shit that nobody want to talk about. So if it's any couples watching this, listening to this, are y'all clear on what both of y'all are getting in the relationship? Because I tell you, 2021, black love cannot be business as usual. Our men have things to say. And I know y'all feel like, well, we didn't, like, we never benefited off of patriarchy. Black men never benefited off of patriarchy. Because at the end of the day, in the 90s, it was more common for my homeboys to go to prison before they went to college. So there was never no benefit to the patriarchal society for black men. So when you just assume like, oh, you a man, you should blase blue or blase blay, anything that a person manifests, man or woman, in this world, 2021, they worked hard for it. Now, because you worked hard for it, don't mean you get to sit in your ivory tower and point fingers at the brokey brokes out here, the people who don't know, and the people who couldn't manifest. Because you manifested and you made it through, you got to figure out a plan to share. And if you figure out a plan to share, you'll be perfectly fine. But if you sit in your ivory tower, you might die of starvation, right? Because what's the food? Can we eat money? No. Can we eat cash? What did you just do?
Huh?
What did you just do? 7, what did he just do?
He just spit at John.
I just figured that. Okay, live over. All right, guys, I'll see y'all on the flip side. I gotta do daddy stuff. Peace.